Hello and welcome to another episode of the Halftime Podcast. Once again, it's been a very prolonged break, but we are back in business. And with me today, I have my fantastic partner in crime, Charlie Pumfrey. Welcome back once again.
Thank you very much for having me, Danny. I like to think we've had a Mesut Ozil-like season so far.
Oh, we are disappearing and reappearing.
Looking quite good for spells. Everyone wondering
place,
where we've been. Although I don't think we've got Arsenal fan TV wanting us back. I don't think that's on the cards.
Yeah, maybe soon. Maybe soon. We'll have to do like an Arsenal fan TV loving podcast or talk
maybe that's
about
what we
Arsene
need.
Wenger or something.
Is an after show, HalfTimeCuppa TV, HalfTimeCuppa fan TV, where we just have Jake interviewing other people.
Well, I mean, it would be Jake interviewing himself, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be.
You know he would do all the accents and
write the theme tune, sing the theme tune.
That's
an old reference.
Yeah.
Fellow
Talking of
kids.
that reference, completely off topic. Have you listened to the Little Brexit podcast yet?
I have not listened to the Little Brexit podcast. Danny.
We've gone way off topic.
Let's not plug other people's podcasts just yet. Let's give it more than 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, in true BBC tradition as well, there's more podcasts available.
The HalfTimeCuppa legal department would like to make it known there are other podcasts available.
Anyway, talking about this podcast, today we're going to talk about Liverpool, who at the time of this recording, and it'd be typical if by the time this recording came out, Liverpool have gone the season unbeaten so far in the Premier League. But as I say, like chances are, when we actually get round to releasing this, they'll actually lose a game. So, Charlie, what have you made of their campaign so far? And bearing in mind who they got coming up this weekend.
Yeah, that small game, that easily winnable, definitely not against one of the best teams in the world game at the weekend.
Yeah, that one.
Gets that the big team in Manchester. It's been an interesting season for Liverpool because I think it's been one that's been, for them, their performance-wise, it's actually been more average, I think, than their last two starts, really, than their performances. Obviously, results serve-wise. But I think the comparison that everyone brings and that every Liverpool fan hates is that this is almost like a Sir Alex Ferguson Man United side, in that they win ugly. That the game against Aston Villa at the weekend was an ugly win. That the game against Man United the week before, getting a draw there, was an ugly draw. But they escaped with points that will be valuable at the end. I mean, you look at how the season ended last year. They missed out on the title on goal difference in the end, or by 1 point, or some ridiculously fine margin.
It was so close, wasn't it? It really was. So, but just to play devil's advocate on that, and I mean, I've sat there a few times. I mean, admittedly, because I support a side that don't challenge for the Premier League title often. But I've sat there and supported a team, and you go through those spells where not playing well, but still getting points. But as much as it's great that they're grinding out the results and they're winning ugly, as a fan, surely you must question whether this is as good as it's going to get, because will performance levels actually increase? Or so I mean, maybe this is not relevant to Liverpool directly, but just in general, like I've had that feeling. I don't know about you when you supported Brighton.
Yeah, let's not bring up our two teams, Danny, because I don't want to. I don't want to bring up the weekend's result.
No, we won't. I'd hate to do that.
No, I think the thing with Liverpool is it looks like they've got more gears to go into. That they beat Chelsea without anyone really battering an eye. A Chelsea side that now look really good. That result last night against Ajax was crazy. But Liverpool seem like they've got more room to grow almost. That their key players aren't necessarily performing at 100%. But actually, once it starts to... The problem with Liverpool as well is that you look at the absolute congestion they've got coming up in the next couple of months. I mean, the fact that if you're a team that has to play 2 games in 24 hours, and we can probably get onto that, you can't... it's ridiculous that situation has come to happen. But having to play a Club World Cup in the winter, there's a reason why this is going to be one of the last editions to ever be held, because doing that is absolutely mental. We can get on to how that's structured, but Liverpool they look like a side that are conserving themselves and knowing that this is a long season, and it's very similar, I think, to last year. The year before, they were very much we'll outscore anyone, 4-3s, like big wins. Whereas this year it's a little bit more understated, I'd say. Like I led off in the opening statement, was that it was this Liverpool team this year will win. They're not worried about winning 4-0. They'll win 1-0, 2-0, see a game out and conserve that energy. They look like they're ready. 2 seasons ago, it looked like they were ready for the battle, but not necessarily ready for the war, if that makes sense. That they were taking it week by week. But I'd like to get your sort of impression on how they've started so far as well. Get maybe a different perspective. I don't know if you agree.
No, I mean, I'm sure the majority. I mean, it's hard to pick holes in how Liverpool have done really when they're up there challenging for the title and they're unbeaten. But I mean, the real just thinking about it now, the real sort of adversity that they've had to sort of overcome as well, in the sense of Alisson being injured, how much of a difference Adrian has been as well when he stepped in. He's done. I mean, he's not been the best goalkeeper in the world, but he's still done a decent job. And to be honest, like compared to keepers from Liverpool's past, Mignolet and oh my word, what's his name? I've lost it. Karius, there we go. Like Adrian's actually done what he's been brought in to do. So in that sense, I feel like there is, and there has been for a little while. There's this sense of there is some squad depth, some serious squad depth. The fact that you've got like the likes of Shaqiri, Chamberlain, just an Origi ready to pounce and come on and change the game. And I mean, Origi, fair play to him. You know, he's forging a career here, of scoring really important goals, and you know, having that impact when not necessarily starting. And you know what? That's the fans are going to remember him for that. And if he keeps putting them in, then
for sure,
happy days.
Well, talking of that sort of almost the backup crew, I guess is the way to put it. What have you made of Oxlade-Chamberlain coming back from this really awful injury, and he looks like he's now back into the squad? I mean, what have you made of his performances? I don't know if you've seen him play much since he's been back.
Yeah, I mean, I've not had the pleasure to see lots and lots. I did see the game. Who did I play at the weekend?
Aston Villa?
No, not the weekend. The Arsenal game. I watched the Arsenal game because of that wicked goal, and I have to say it was an incredible strike. So Chamberlain, you know, I'm pleased for him to get that goal. And you know what? Not many people, I don't think, picked up on it, but the class in his celebration was very, very good as well.
Very understated. Like, you know, can't celebrate against your old team. He didn't pull an Adebayor, which would have been arguably the most.
It would have been hilarious.
What hilarious! That would have been it. I think I would have been done if Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain had done a knee slide into the Arsenal fans. Arsenal fan TV might have just imploded.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair though, when you just scored a goal like that, like a really good goal, I feel like Arsenal fans would have gone incredibly mental other than Arsenal fan TV.
I think it's
I mean, had he have scored a tap in and done a knee slide in front of him, then yeah, fair enough. But it was a really good goal. I don't know how much of an impact Chamberlain will have going further forward, because I still feel he's still recovering, he's still getting back into the fold. And I mean, like I said, I'm not really the most avid Liverpool watcher because of where my loyalties lie with the yellow and green team. But they've got a good squad, and Chamberlain's a big part of that as well. So.
Well, that's really interesting. Would you say he's, not to focus this whole podcast on Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, but would you say he's in for an England call? Would you call him up, given our state of our midfield right now?
Not over a Maddison, not over Sancho or someone like that. No,
No, absolutely. I think that's a good point. I think James Maddison. I mean, the squad. I think it's being announced tomorrow. Might be the beginning of next week.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah, I think he's pushing for it, and I think given that he could play slightly deeper than maybe Maddison,
yeah,
he's in the shout in my eyes. But yeah, if we're going then, let's move on. Let's move on now to a different aspect of this Liverpool side. Where do you think, if it is going to come unstuck, where do you think it's going to come unstuck this season?
It's a great question. Personally, if you'd asked me, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, a month ago, I would have gone. It was whilst Alisson's away. Your Adrian's doing well, but how long can he keep it up? The injuries aspect. I mean, injuries is something that obviously you can't predict and you can't fully guard against, I guess. No. But you've got to have insurance policies in place in the sense that you've got backup options. And Liverpool got backup options, so that's good. I don't know, genuinely in how they play, I love watching their fullbacks.
Yeah.
So just a general view, it would be if a team were to counter their fullbacks when they get up the pitch really, really high. But I mean, to be honest, this Liverpool team are a strong side, and I think the only way the wheels come off at the moment is if things start going against them, such as injuries and big calls. But at the moment, it seems to be going their way. So they'll be really pleased. I don't know about yourself there, Charlie.
No, definitely. I think I agree. I mean, losing Alisson is bad, and it doesn't help anyone's season. I think anyone in the Premier League. If Man City lost Ederson, they'd be in trouble. But actually, to talk about Man City, their issues they've had, if Liverpool were to lose Virgil van Dijk for any period of time, the difference I think that would make to them, I think if he'd have gone down at the same time as Alisson had gone down, that would have put a real stunt in their season, because that is... He is the best defender in the world. I think that's probably not all that dramatic to make that comment. But... yeah. Losing him, maybe, I mean, if you lose, the difficulty is, you could say if they lose Mane or Firmino or Salah, but that they've been playing games they played last night without two of them starting. I know they all ended up on the pitch. Yeah,
and they've got replacements there, haven't they? You're right. I think the one is the one they have to keep in bubble wrap is Van Dijk, but that's not to say that those around in that defensive area are bad. It's just I feel like the psychological aspect.
Yeah, I think if you end up with Joel Matip there instead of Virgil van Dijk, you are noticeably weakening that side. I mean, do you think, given that's been said, and there's been conversations as well about Liverpool potentially even making moves in January to bring other players in? It sounds like Xherdan Shaqiri is not quite thought of as he was last year. And I mean, would you see them moving potentially for another attacking player, or would you not want to shake that team up?
As in, I think what you bring in is like we just spoke about. I feel like what they need could be another centre back option, who is that sort of Van Dijk figure. But obviously, they come at a hell of a price.
Well, it's really interesting you bring that up about another defender. Sorry, jumping on your point there. Do you not think it's? Well, I mean, the conversation in the summer they had was that they didn't have any money to spend. But in a summer where someone like Matthijs de Ligt moves, and they don't break the bank to bring him in, I mean, if you can get the two Dutch centre-backs paired, that's a partnership for the next 5-6 years. That's in the mould of Ferdinand and Vidic. It surprises me that Liverpool didn't... I mean, it surprises me that Man City didn't move in that market as well, given that money isn't really a consideration for them.
Yeah.
We could speak for weeks, I think, about
that'd be a long podcast, that one. Yeah.
John Stones alone, I think, would be a couple of episodes. But it's really interesting that you mentioned that about that potential to bring in an older centre-back. Do you worry at all that bringing another influence in would be a little bit of a risk, maybe, in that defence, in the dressing room, given that everyone does buy in so much?
Maybe, and this is where a good coach and a good manager understands the team dynamic and what they need. My, like I said a little bit earlier, my concern would be should Van Dijk get injured, the psychological aspects for the team. But you know what? I feel like it would be worse for the fans, because I feel like should he get injured, should they play that first game without him and they concede pretty early doors, then what would be the response? Would the fans support, or would they start getting on the back? And I feel if they start getting on the back, then they're gone. Like, he could be out. He could be out only for 1 game, 2 games. But as we saw last season, how tight it was.
That psychological impact of losing him.
Yeah, I feel like the fans have a real big influence on how this season will go for them. I don't know what you think in terms of
definitely.
And, I mean, listen, Liverpool fans, I'm not trying to preempt anything. I don't want I don't want any hate if it happens. But I mean, Charlie, if it was to happen, what do you think would be the outcome?
It's very difficult, because I think if we're going to make a bit of a hypothetical statement on that one there, that if you lose Virgil van Dijk, it is just going to have an impact on you. But going to that psychological impact that could be sort of felt at Liverpool, do you think there's any sort of pressure there on them to? I mean, winning the Champions League last year kind of felt almost secondary, because it wasn't the Premier League. It wasn't breaking the duck of. Well, I mean, we're getting on for 30 years now. Do you think, much like when Arsenal had that big break without a trophy, and that it was a real psychological hurdle to get over, to get back to winning ways, to win what was really on the top of their list, do you think that would impact the players at all? I mean, do you think that, because you could say last season it did play on them when they did have that lead? Do you think that could affect them again this year, or do you think Klopp will really nail down that sort of almost complacency, or that sort of the psychology aspect of it, whether that would affect them at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? I think when you look back as a club as a whole, for me as an outsider, when you look back to their prior to Klopp, their previous sort of closest Premier League encounter was probably under Rodgers, and obviously the infamous Gerrard slip. I think all of that doesn't help. Obviously the mentality of the fans and the players, but more so the fans. It's the players. Obviously, players come, players go. And this is where I think Liverpool fans really have to keep their bottle, because it is going to be a long season, and you know what? They may well lose this Sunday against Man City, but they shouldn't jump to conclusions. They really need to support their players, I feel, because, like I say, in all of these adversities, like the Alisson, it's really important that they come out positively, because that is the sign of true champions. You can't have everything go your way for the whole season.
No,
that's just not. It just can't happen like that. And I'm sure you've experienced it yourself as a Brighton fan, as a player, as a coach, Charlie. I'm sure you've experienced all 3 situations, or 3 different perspectives. It just doesn't happen.
Absolutely. A season is, I think they're going to end up playing 50, 60 games this year. Yeah. It is very, and I know that's across all competitions, and there's only 38 games in the Premier League, but it is very rare, and it only takes one, like I say, it takes one slip and the ball going to Demba Ba. It takes excellence from the other team as well. All it takes, if they could slip up, they slipped up last year in one game. They lost one game at Man City. If they'd have won that game, if they'd have drawn that game, they would have won the title last year. And it does take Vincent Kompany scoring in the 90th minute from 25 yards. It takes that little bit of inspiration and luck. There is it can't be understated with these sorts of things, that luck is a huge thing, and it will have to go their way. Especially, I think, to be honest, I think everyone's talking about this as a 2-horse race. I don't think it is just a 2-horse race. I think Leicester will have a say on this title.
Leicester?
Not necessarily winning it, but Leicester will have a say. Absolutely.
You know what? I'm pleased. I would be pleased if they were, because as understated, and again, this is not really tailored too much to Liverpool, but Brendan Rodgers has done an incredible job, and it's so nice to see them play attacking football. And you know what? Whatever happens, they've already they're on to a good season. So yeah,
for sure.
But anyway,
I think that's all. Yeah, but yeah, I think there's definitely more. There's so much more that's going to happen this season, and hopefully we'll be there to cover it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so final point then, and I know we discussed it before we sort of came on air. Do you think there's a possibility that Liverpool could go the season unbeaten and yet still end up losing the Premier League title? And if that was to happen, I mean, mathematically we haven't got calculators out, so we can't work this one straight out.
Yeah, it's mathematically possible at this stage, yeah.
And if it were to happen, what do you think the reaction would be? Like, would it psychologically kill sort of their title ambitions for years to come?
No, not in that case. I just can't see that being the case. If you go unbeaten for a season, and if Liverpool go unbeaten this season, it won't be for lack of, it won't be because of they will have lost the title because of too many draws, or so it will be. But you know, it won't be because they've been poor. It will be because some other team was at a level. Well, let's be honest. It would be because Manchester City, and I know I brought Leicester into it, but let's not go there. It will be because Manchester City were truly exceptional, and they'd have to win. I mean, at this point, I don't know what the points difference is. I haven't got it in front of me. The sort of run a team would have to go on, I don't think you could begrudge. I think all the focus would be on how good they were, rather than how Liverpool threw it away. And people will bring it up. There's always going to be the narrative of, oh, you bottled it again, bottle job club, all of this, all of that. But if you go unbeaten for a season, that's an achievement in itself. That's, for me, that's almost as good as winning the Premier League. If you can go 38 games in the most competitive division in the most competitive top division in the world, because some would say the Championship is the most competitive division in the world. Some would say, there's probably some Bundesliga 3 fan out there who's losing their mind.
Fiercely typing away.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, but that's fine. If you want to beaver away and explain to us in 100 words why Drei Bundesliga, whatever it's called, it's the best division in the world, we'll get to that. But the achievement of going unbeaten for a year in the Premier League, there's a reason that people talk about Arsenal's Invincibles year more because it's invincible than them winning the Premier League. Because they didn't win the Premier League by a huge margin that year, from memory. It was because they went unbeaten. And to go unbeaten in this era, where every club in the Premier League has the ability to beat you, even looking at from Watford to Southampton. I mean, Southampton nearly beat Manchester City at the weekend, having lost 9-0 8 days earlier.
It's true.
We live in a world where any Premier League team can beat any Premier League team. And it might be, they might lose one game all season, and it might be Norwich. It might be Norwich. Break that. It might be.
My word.
But it might be. It may just be you lose one game and it will be to a small team because the fixture congestion. They come back from the Club World Cup, whatever. The achievement of going unbeaten is arguably. I would. This is the question: would you rather go unbeaten or would you rather win the league? And I think people. I don't know what your opinion on it is. I think I'd probably rather win the league because for Liverpool it would mean so much more. You got something to
show. Yeah, you got something to show for it, unfortunately.
And I think if Liverpool win the league, it's not only the culmination of a journey, but that could be the beginning of something. They've won the champion. They'll have won the champion. Say they win the league this year, they'll have won the Champions League last year. They'll have won the Premier League this year. I mean, you look at, to draw a comparison to the club that's also owned by John Henry, to the baseball team, to the Red Sox, to go a little bit into a different sport. They broke the curse of the Bambino and went on and won way more. Went on and won the World Series many times, and there's an argument that's because of money. It's a whole different conversation for a whole different podcast. But once you get that winning mentality, the dam starts to break. Aguero scores the winning goal, scores the goal in the last minute against QPR. Man City have won the Premier League numerous times now. That once it starts to break your way, you know how to win a Premier League. There's a reason Ferguson won it 13 times. Once you do it, that's it. I think once they can break the curse, they can really, really get after it, and it would be the beginning, not the end. But they have to win it. I think you've got to win it. Going invincible is fantastic, but you have to win the league. I'm sure they'd love both. I don't know what your opinion is.
No, as in, like, as much as being unbeaten is a great feat, but I mean, if you've got nothing for Liverpool, their club in particular, they need the Premier League trophy, and yeah, I mean, they probably need it more than anyone. Well, other than Norwich fans, but they was one of the sides that are up there to just put to bed their close misses. And yeah, I mean, just thinking about it as well, this is why we will wrap it up in a second, but this is why we've sort of come on to this invincible topic, I guess, because I was watching the Premier League years and I obviously saw Arsenal win. But could you imagine, slightly on a tangent here, but could you imagine going the season unbeaten, but that final game you lose? So if you've won 37 games, and I don't know, you don't win the league, you end up losing the league, and you've lost that final game. How terrible must you?
If they end up winning the league, is that?
No, if they lose the league.
Oh, I mean, it wouldn't be great, but I think in isolation, once the league would have been won by someone else, that the focus would be gone, and that you could see that happening. But if Man City, to be honest, it's going to be Man City. If someone ends up winning it and it's not a team that went unbeaten, it will be Man City. I think the achievement of winning it when someone else goes unbeaten is beyond that, and I think the focus would slip. And I don't know who they've got last day of the season if we're talking about Liverpool, but it'd be gutting. I don't know what if your team, obviously you coach. If
you were to do that, yeah, I mean that would kill you, wouldn't it? That really would.
Yeah, another beat. But I think Klopp's the sort of manager that's used to kind of being the David in the David and Goliath, whether it's at Borussia Dortmund, whether it's at Liverpool. I think he prefers to do the chasing than do the leading. I don't think he minds being in the front, but I think he prefers to be chasing a team. Showed last year. I mean, the year before they were the ones that hunted Man City down and made it really close. So,
it's kind of role reversal last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think that potentially hurt. And I think that's could be a question this year. But yeah, I think if you end up going 37-1, it'd hurt for a while, but I think you'd be quickly moving on. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, well, on that note, I think we should bring this to a close. As we've extended our time, as usual.
Cloppage
time. Yeah, Charlie, unfortunately, we don't get paid any extra for this one.
You're getting paid?
Well, no, not that I'm aware of. On that note then, Charlie, how can we follow you on social media?
You can find me at Charlie Pumfrey on Twitter. Got to get the branding. What about you, Danny? Where can we find you over social medias?
You can find me on Twitter at DannyCook1996. That's all.
Nice. Not plugging anything else.
No, not today. We'll launch a Snapchat soon, or Instagram, or something like that.
HalfTimeCuppa Snapchat coming soon. HalfTimeCuppa TikTok coming soon. Confirmed.
TikTok. Oh my word.
That's where we're at. LinkedIn. Yeah. HalfTimeCuppa LinkedIn as well. Get on it.
LinkedIn. To be fair, we've got LinkedIn. So
we have found us at HalfTimeCuppa on LinkedIn.
We've got LinkedIn.
Send your job applications. We don't pay, but you know.
On that note, thank you very much, Charlie, as ever. We will do another one soon. And you know what? Charlie and I were speaking. We've got a few ideas for some other podcast-related stuff or projects that we hope to bring you pretty soon. It sounds quite interesting, doesn't it? Quite exciting.
Keep your ear to the ground. Yeah,
ears to the ground. Ears to the ground and ears to the earphones.
Yeah.
On that note, thank you very much for listening once again. We hope to be back. very, very soon. Take care and goodbye.
Bye.